Well, hello and welcome to a special edition of Game On exclusive to 𝐾𝐤𝐴 TV. I'm James Preston, and in this jam-packed episode I'll catch up with football commentator Adam Santarossa, tennis commentator Brett Phillips to talk about the beautiful game and the US Open respectively, and you might be wondering why I'm wearing this. And that is because today is Jersey Day, and I'll speak with the day's founder, Richard 𝐊𝐴𝐚𝐥𝐤, a little later in the show. So there's more interviews than you can poke a hockey stick at, but let's begin with a quick roundup of the week's major sporting news. Let's start with a Paralympics wrap-up. Australia currently sits 8th in the medal count with 18 golds, 25 silver and 27 bronze for a total of 70 medals, with the game set to wrap up this Sunday. In further good news for our Paralympians, the federal government has committed to providing the medal payments after it was revealed our athletes were not receiving any monetary reward for claiming a medal. On Thursday, Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced that Paralympians would now receive the same payment for medal winning as performances of those from the Olympics. That includes Paralympians receiving medal bonuses of $20,000 for gold, $15,000 for silver and $10,000 for winning a bronze medal. Let's now take a look at Australia's most attended sport in the form of AFL. Last season marked the first time in 123 years that the VFL or AFL Grand Final was played outside of Victoria, when Brisbane's The Gabba played host to the decider between Richmond and Geelong. Now for the second year running, the Grand Final is on the move, with Perth set to host the AFL Grand Final for the first time in their history on September 25. Optus Stadium will act as the venue, and the AFL and Perth government are hopeful that fans will be able to attend. From the 18-man game to the 13-a-side game, and in the NRL, a name associated with rugby league royalty is now on the scrap heap. Bulldogs playmaker Lachlan Lewis has been fined $10,000 and has been stood down by his club after he attempted to sell a set of speakers owned by the club on eBay. With the Bulldogs deciding not to renew Lewis's contract, he's been told he'll need to apply to be registered to play in the NRL once again. And finally, with rugby league, Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk has apologised to the public after allowing the wives and families of NRL players into the state whilst there was a pause on hotel quarantine arrivals. From the egg-shaped ball to the round, it's time to get our footballing fix with journalist and commentator Adam Santarossa. Right, time now to dive into the beautiful game. There's only one person who can guide us through it all. That is Adam Santarossa. Adam, welcome to Game On.
Yeah, good to be here, James.
Well, let's get right into it. The big story in the EPL this week is obviously the return of the prodigal son, Cristiano Ronaldo, a Red Devil once more.
Yeah, massive story and huge for the Premier League and obviously Man United and the football world in general. I mean, last time we spoke, it was in those hours where it looked like Manchester City were going to land Ronaldo, and credit to Manchester United, a pretty savvy piece of business to step in and take him away. And look, there's been some talk after that of, is this just a bit of a PR move to sort of keep the fans happy? But look, I think anytime you can get a player of Cristiano Ronaldo's quality, regardless of his age and maybe in the downswing in his overall career, I think anytime you can get a player like that at your club, it's quite a move, and it's only going to be a positive one because he's a winner and he scores goals wherever he goes. So I think a savvy piece of business in the end for Man United.
So you mentioned there the potential for it to be a PR move, but do you think he will actually form part of their starting 11 once it comes on board?
Yeah, I think he has to. I think given his quality and given the I guess cost, his wages are pretty significant in the context of the other players at the club. I mean, the transfer fee wasn't so much, but yeah, it's pretty astronomical wages for a player like Ronaldo. But look, I think he'll deliver. I think he'll be their first choice striker, or he'll play a starting role at some point. However, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to play him. But I think, leading the line, he's not the player that they previously saw at Old Trafford. The Premier League is a difficult job for a 36-year-old striker. It's probably the quickest and most intense league in Europe. Definitely a rise from what La Liga and Serie A is in that regard. But Ronaldo's shown if you give him the service, he'll score goals, and he's done that everywhere. He's done that on the international stage. He got the record now for the most goals from an international footballer. So the case is there. If you provide the service, which he'll score goals. So I think he's pretty crucial to what they'll do this year.
Well, let's now turn our attention to the international scene and a very strong result for the Socceroos.
Yeah, terrific performance this morning against China, a 3-0 win, which they really dominated from the opening whistle. But it was interesting because I think a lot of fans were unsure as how the Socceroos would adapt. Obviously, this is a home qualifier, but we're playing it in the Middle East due to COVID, and Australia has been so hard to beat at home. We've got a phenomenal record, and we lose that obviously playing these games in the Middle East. But the performance this morning showed no signs of that being a factor, at least for now. And we take on Vietnam on Tuesday, which we should win again. China and Vietnam are probably the two weaker sides in our group. In what is a pretty difficult group. I don't think Australia should get too carried away. We saw Japan lose to Oman as well this morning, which is a pretty shock result. And the top two in the group obviously qualify straight through to the World Cup in Qatar in 2022. Third place goes into the playoff. We have Japan, Saudi Arabia and Oman as those heavyweights in the group. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be cut and dried. But yeah, in terms of the perfect start, we pretty much got that this morning.
And Adam, lastly, still with international football, some pretty crazy scenes in the England and Hungary match. Take us through what happened.
Yeah, we saw England and Hungary. England, a comprehensive win 4-0 this morning, and a great, I guess, reaction to that defeat of the Euro 2020 final just a few weeks ago. But we saw some interesting crowd responses to goals. Raheem Sterling scored the opening goal for England, and he was met with some projectiles thrown at him in some number from the Hungary fans, and there was some talk of some racial taunts again to English players. So again, it's another, I guess, bad mark or a black mark on the game and in the international game, which I think UEFA and FIFA really need to do a big job here of stamping it out. It's just not to be condoned. And again, we're not talking about the football and what was a pretty phenomenal England performance. We're talking about crowd misbehaviour and racial vilification, which, to be fair, England Euro 2020 final, in terms of crowd misbehaviour, there was certainly some pretty strong examples of that in that final. So they're not, they're definitely guilty in some aspects of that as well. So again, it's in the spotlight, and football needs to be really strong and show that we don't condone this behaviour.
You're 100% right. I mean, it is the world game, which means literally we do have people of every ethnicity competing at a professional level and just playing more broadly at a grassroots level. One thing I do want to touch on just before we finish up, though, the decision for the England side to take a knee before the match. We're talking there about trying to keep away these kind of things, whether it be politics or racial overtones from the sport itself. Is this still in good touch, in good taste, given it's been probably about a year since all this kicked off?
Yeah, I think it's the spotlight on this issue really centres around the England team because of the recent the Euro 2020 final. The players that missed obviously their race, which was unfairly a subject after that penalty shootout. So yeah, I think England have, and this has come from the players, and the English FA have been really strong in that. It's not a mandate from the FA. It hasn't said we want you to do this or we encourage you to do this. It's very much player driven. So I think that's where it's going to be. The superstars of the game showing the cause and getting behind the cause, and it's a very real cause when you look at it in the context of that English team. So I don't really have too many concerns with them doing it. I think the focus needs to go to these unruly fans, and I think whatever the country, England are included in that as well. I think if they've been found to be guilty, the punishment needs to be strong, and whether that's playing to closed stadiums or points, penalties, whatever it is, it needs to be strong, and the message will get there sooner rather than later.
Adam, really well said, and I think it is important to provide that context there of course, the missed penalties and then what happened in the fallout thereafter. It's not the same kind of situation, for example, as in the NFL, where we've got people opposing the flag or the anthem. This is very much off the back of something that occurred. So thanks for summing that up so succinctly and with a real degree of wisdom. And once again, thank you for appearing on Game On.
Yeah, pleasure.
Always great to get Adam's insight. Cristiano Ronaldo's arrival at Manchester United is now imminent, and what a moment it will be in front of a packed Old Trafford. Now, speaking of packed crowds, the US Open fans are braving the weather to get an in-person glimpse of tennis royalty, and Brett Phillips has all the lowdown. Well, the US Open is in full swing, and there's only one man we can possibly talk to about it all, and that is Brett Phillips. Brett, welcome to the show.
Thank you, James. From US Open headquarters here, there's been screens everywhere this week. It is busy in the first week, but the pressure's just starting to come off a little bit because we've got players going into the third round now. So you're starting to sort out the pretenders and the contenders.
Very true. Now, you got screens all over you, but I'm sure there's probably quite a few people who are actually attending the US Open that wish there were some screens above them.
Oh.
Some crazy scenes last night.
It was incredible. Now, New York can get, some bad weather at times, and we've seen hurricanes in the past that can filter up the east coast of America, and obviously, badly hit Louisiana, and we feel for the people down there. But so the officials knew that bad weather was coming. So yesterday they got the day schedule out the way, and they swapped courts just to get all the matches done, knowing there was some rain. I thought, okay, the remaining matches, we've got 2 courts with a roof, we should be totally fine. Louis Armstrong, which is the second court, which was redesigned 2 years ago. It's a magnificent court, but it's open air up the top. So it does have a roof, but it allows some wind and fresh air to get in, unlike Arthur Ashe, which is pretty stuffy and humid and no circulation, certainly for the players. What they didn't factor in, James, was that the rain was going to be coming at 1 million miles an hour sideways. Even the commentators sit high up in an open air box. They're not even covered. It was funny footage on Twitter last night. Darren Cale, long-time ESPN commentator, and of course our very own here, coaches Simona Halep, they were trying to find raincoats. Their notes were blowing away. They couldn't actually even see the tennis because of the misty rain that was coming over while Diego Schwartzman and Kevin Anderson were playing. So they actually had to abandon that court because it got that ferocious, the winds and the rain at the same time. And then it was people trying to make their way out of the Billie Jean King National Tennis Centre. There was flooding everywhere. They closed the subway. Sloane Stephens actually told a great story today, the champion of 4 years ago. So she played in the night session, and then it was the challenge of getting home. So she went to a pizza shop not too far away to have a little bit of dinner and ended up staying there for 3 or 4 hours because it wasn't safe to even go out on the roads. But today, it's like nothing happened. Picture perfect blue skies. It's the calm after the storm today.
Tell you what, I can think of worse places to be stuck in than a pizza shop, though. That would actually suit me to a T. But look, from waterworks in terms of the actual tennis courts to a bit of waterworks from Stefanos Tsitsipas, having a few toilet issues, not the likes of David Warner and Sonny Bill Williams. So that's a good veering away from that. But look, he's been under fire from the likes of Andy Murray, from some fans. What's going on with this?
So until the tours actually bring in a rule or some sort of clock, then the rule states this, that you are allowed to have a break after a set, right? And come back within reasonable time. But what is reasonable? Now, players will stretch that as much as they need to reset. Now, often the pattern is that a player will take that more extended break when they've lost a set. So they stop the momentum. If they're flying, you tend to see them go to the chair. They just want to get the next set started because they've got the momentum. So Tsitsipas has done this a few times now, which is very noticeable to his fellow players. And he takes the whole kit bag off, and he's gone for about 8 or 9 minutes. Now, in Arthur Ashe Stadium, the toilet is about 20 metres away. So he's not actually breaking any rule, but certainly it's a player's code amongst all the players. Come on, let's not disrespect each other and let the other player hanging out on court for longer than they should. You've got spectators in the stands who want to see tennis. Not great for television. But the ATP, my feeling is, talking to a lot of people, that 5 minutes would be ample. So if you're just going for a quick toilet break, well, it shouldn't even take 5 minutes. But if you're going for a whole wardrobe change, which in New York, the heat and the humidity is oppressive. So you do need to get out of some dripping clothes and reset. Put the 5-minute clock on. And if the player hasn't arrived back by then, well, maybe they get some sort of code violation or they get a warning, and then for every 30 seconds after, they maybe get a point deduction. I'll tell you what, that would quicken up the players because they've adapted to a service clock, which is 25 seconds. They've adapted to no ball boys bringing them towels anymore because of the COVID times that we're in. They go get their own towel off, back up to serve. So players will adapt. They need to bring in a hard, fast clock on that to stop players bending the time allowed to go off court.
Yeah, I think you're spot on the money with that. There needs to be something that's done. And it's not just Tsitsipas. One player who has done similar things in the past is Novak Djokovic. I think that's part of why there's a bit of tension from fans and other players toward him. Now, he certainly didn't do himself any favours earlier this week, that's for sure. During the press conference, he was let's say, extremely arrogant about his chances of winning another US Open and completing that big Grand Slam that he's after. One, is this in really poor taste given what's going on and I suppose undermining his opposition? And two, from what you've seen so far with his play, is it likely that that arrogance is now just going to be confidence based on what he's doing?
It's a very interesting question. I think he's a fascinating character. There's no doubt. I think he's a guy that's a great tennis player. Let's put that on the table. And he's a guy, certainly as he's got older too, into his 30s, who's very wise. Like all of him, you don't have to agree with every opinion that he has, but just his thoughts on the world. And if you know, I suppose his whole backstory of, growing up in Yugoslavia when he was a 12-year-old, Belgrade has been bombed and, they're in bomb shelters and all that. I suppose it's shaped who he is in a lot of ways. And, this is what I try and get a read on every time I go to a tournament. It's why I love to be on site, because you get to go to these press conferences and look through the person and try and understand them. So is it arrogance? Is it just a confidence in your own ability? He's never warmed to people not warming to him. He can't quite understand it. But his actions at times have certainly got people offside. But that's, there's so many nationalities in tennis too that all of them go about it in a different way, which makes it fascinating. What is acceptable to us as Australians, might not be acceptable over in his part of the world. But look, his tennis at the moment is very good. He had a good win tonight. He's 2 matches down. He's got Nishikori next, which is the first tough assignment. K's been ranked world number 4. So he's every chance to win the calendar slam. But Alexander Zverev is the man. He had an unbelievable win today. I think he's the biggest threat right now. 1 Tokyo and 1 Cincinnati as well.
All right, so some pretty good form there. He might be the last line of defence against that potential big career slam there for Novak Djokovic. Brett, just as we wrap up, let's focus on our Aussie contingent here. Now, most of the men are gone. Aleksej Popyrin, he still remains. And for the women, it's Ash Barty, as per usual, flying the flag high.
Ash has played 2 pretty good matches, 6-1 in the first in both, so she's got off to a flyer, which is good. I prefer that than her having to come from a set down and go to 3. In the second set against Vonareva and young Clara Towson, so a 36-year-old she played in the first round, played an 18-year-old today, opposite ends of the spectrum. They pushed Barty, they tested her, they just swung, they had nothing to lose, and Ash withstood that and she got through. So no dramas from my point of view. She's going to play Shelby Rogers next. She's already played Shelby 4 times this year. Some players never play each other in their lifetime in tennis. So 5-0 head-to-head there. Ash will go in as favourite. She looks pretty solid to me. I think she's going to be very, very tough to beat. Osaka had a walkover in the second round, so we need a bit more of her to see what form line is there. Aleksej Popyrin. Big chance against Dan Evans. Well ranked, inside the top 30, different style of game. It'll be difficult because he'll throw a lot of different type balls. He loves to slice. He loves to take the pace off. So Aleksej likes to feed off a little bit of power, but he's going to have to generate the power. So he's going to have to just get the execution right. But yeah, interesting matchup. I think Aleksej will be right in that match.
And can we see Aleksej pushing deep into this US Open? Is he any chance of claiming silverware?
Well, he could go maybe deeper than he has been. Certainly not his side of the draw, but the other side of the draw has opened up considerably with the amount of male seeds that have gone out, which is a little surprising. Normally it's more women's seeds that fall in the opening week, but it's been more of the men. The 10th seed Hurkacz went out today from Poland. So, I think that's where he's trying to push to. I think the pass mark, if he can get to the 4th round for the first time, he's been 3rd round. This is his 4th time in the 3rd round. So it'd be nice to get to the 4th round, maybe even sneak a quarterfinal, which Alex de Minaur did this time last year. So winnable match against Dan Evans. Hopefully he's recovered well. Conditions, I think, should be okay for the weekend. And Aleksej's the one, certainly got the power to really trouble a lot of these players ranked higher than him.
All right, well, we are keeping the fingers crossed. Hopefully we can get a couple of winners there for our Aussie contingent. Brett, once again, thank you so much for joining Game On.
Thank you. Great to chat, James.
Still a few hopes for our Aussie players, so let's keep those fingers crossed. After the break, we chat Jersey Day with Richard Grammer. My glasses fell off me. Has your week hit you for six? Barely had time to breathe, let alone throw a flick pass? Well, don't worry, 𝐾𝐤𝐴 has all your sporting action covered. Each episode, I'll bring you the biggest sports news of the week. Exclusive interviews with athletes, sports commentators and journalists. Plus, we'll also look at the finances off the field from new broadcast deals, sports commercial partnerships and more with sports business. So for a sports show that tackles all the big issues, ball and all, join me, James Preston, for Game On every Friday, exclusive to 𝐾𝐤𝐴 TV. Thanks for tuning in to 𝐾𝐤𝐴 TV. I'm James Preston and this is Game On, where we bring you the biggest sports headlines, exclusive interviews and the latest in the world of sports business. And just before we dive into the finances off the field, let's first catch up with Richard 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐚, the founder of Jersey Day, to talk about the importance of the day itself and what it means. Now, mate, I dare say your jersey's probably got more success attached to it than the Tigers at the moment. We aren't doing particularly well, but first and foremost, what is Jersey Day about and how did it come about?
Yeah, so Jersey Day is all about promoting organ and tissue donation. Unfortunately, I lost my nephew in an accident in May 2015. And as a result of that accident, Nathan became an organ and tissue donor. And so once we're, I guess, into that world, we use Jersey Day as a vehicle to let other people know about organ and tissue donation and the importance of what it is for Australians to, as we often say, our egg can't be unscrambled in our situation as a result of an accident, but there's many families out there. 1,800 Australians are currently waiting on an organ and tissue transplant that could help save their lives. So Jersey Day is all about promoting that.
And when did you start Jersey Day?
So we had our first Jersey Day in 2015, which I guess was more of a local event in the Hills area of Sydney. And then as soon as we saw that first event, I guess, in the Hills, we thought, this could be something that we could certainly take further forward. And then, so I guess, certainly 2015, that first year, and then onwards and upwards from there until, now we have a national event, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's been incredible to see how it has grown over time. We'll touch on that in just a moment. But why the focal point of sports jerseys for the day particularly? Obviously, I've got one which isn't exactly ingrained in success. You've got a beautiful one which is the official Jersey Day jersey. But yeah, why the focus on jerseys?
Yeah, well, a jersey represents a team and a common cause. So, we believe that to promote organ and tissue donation, we need to work as a team, as Australians. And, like any good sports team, you have a jersey that represents the team and your common cause. And you certainly shouldn't be too hard there on the Tigers. I happen to be an Eels fan, so it's been a while in between success for the Eels. So we love the Tigers.
Look, we have to go all the way back to the 80s for the lovely days of Brett Kenny and Peter Sterling. And I mean, look, you're getting close to the top four, so it could be fine. But I mean, you mentioned 2015 being when you first begun with Jersey Day. How have you seen it grow over time? Obviously, it's now a national event. What are the kind of numbers of people getting involved?
Yeah, it's certainly up there. It's always hard to tell, I guess, actual numbers with an event like Jersey Day. But, if you get on social media today, you'll see there's a lot of people out there posting, which is fantastic. So, we're certainly into the tens of thousands and, dare I say, hundreds of thousands of people that get out there and wear a jersey and promote organ and tissue donation, which is just fantastic. But the growth over time has been fantastic, and there's always room for more, obviously. But we've had the support of many, many people in the sporting community and lots of, celebrities and sports people who use their profile for good. So, certainly we love all sport. We're a rugby league family, I guess, the way we grew up playing sport, and we have lots of friends in the rugby league world that have certainly helped it along, but we're always looking to, push further and, into other sports. But there's just been so many people that have helped us over time. I guess the Wiggles was one that was quite unique, and also Chris Waller's a good buddy of ours, so we even had Winks in a Jersey Day sash a few years ago. So, yeah, the way it's built over the years has been fantastic.
Yeah, you got to love when the thoroughbreds even get involved. That's always a good sign. Now, finally, Richard, where can we stay across all the developments? And Is there any message that you'd like to leave for our viewers as well?
Yeah, so I guess the simplest message, James, is the best way to keep up to date is at Jersey Day AU on socials. The most important message about Jersey Day is, we don't advocate for people to say yes to organ donation. We advocate for people to understand what organ and tissue donation is. But the most important aspect that you have to be aware of is you have to have a chat with your family about organ and tissue donation. Because if the worst comes to the worst, even if you're registered as an organ and tissue donor, they will be asked to confirm your wishes. So you have to have a chat with your family. Go to donatelife.gov.au to register your organ and tissue wishes, and have a chat with your family, and get out there on Jersey Day and have some fun. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody's images up on social media, and tag us at Jersey Day AU.
It should be a very colourful feed indeed. Richard, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having us, James.
Yeah, great to catch up with Richard 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤, and make sure to wear your colours today for Jersey Day. All right, let's check out the finances off the field with Sports Business. Let's begin with the Rugby Union and the RFU. The national governing body for professional and grassroots rugby in England has announced the extension of its long-term partnership with commercial real estate services and investment firm CBRE. The relationship between the pair dates back to 2014 and will continue for another 4 years as part of the new deal. CBRE will continue to provide property consultancy and advisory services, as well as significant upgrade and improvement works to Twickenham Stadium under the new agreement. According to the RFU, the works include the replacement of the east stand roof and also the development of the RFU's long-term sustainability and energy management strategy, as well as its facilities management services. And still with the RFU and business deals, the RFU has struck up a partnership with Honda, who has become a major sponsor of the governing body and the England rugby national side in a long-term multi-year deal. England's Pennyhill Park training base will be renamed the Honda England Rugby Performance Centre as part of the arrangement. The deal will also see the car maker's branding appear on the kits of England under-18s and also the under-20 side. Securing an array of strategic partnerships has been a key priority for the RFU after it reported a £10.8 million loss for 2019 and 2020 as the pandemic prevented England from hosting Six Nations matches. And lastly, event agency Threshold Sports has announced the acquisition of Endure 24 event series from Race Solutions Limited. The 24-hour trail running relay race was launched in 2012, led by founder and race director Chris Sumner. In 2019, more than 10,000 people attended the weekend events to race as solo runners, compete in sociable teams of up to 12, or to provide support to other competitors. Threshold Sports, which was founded in 2008, says the Endure 24 events are an ideal addition to its existing events portfolio as they continue their journey of making world-class, endurable challenges accessible, achievable, and enjoyable for more people. All right, well, that's it for this edition of Game On. Hope you enjoyed this show. Get involved with Jersey Day. It's never too late to throw on your favourite jersey and support your team. And until next time, go you mighty Tigers.